How you doing, YouTube? Happy Sunday. Happy Lord's Day. Hope you're all doing well. Been a little bit inactive this week on the YouTube other than the stream the other night. Thanks for everybody that came over to Jason's channel and said hello and interacted with us. Probably be doing it again this Friday. We'll see. Don't know who's going to be hosting that yet. But yeah, after my Halloween video, kind of took a little mini break. Been trying to cram for this Manila Road opus I plan on shooting. And there's a couple albums in the discography that I'm not as boned up on as I would like to be. So I've been listening to some Manila Road and preparing. It's a fun preparation, trust me. But yeah, I mean, that's, as you can see, a lot of albums to talk about. So we're going to get through that together here, hopefully next week. But in the meantime, I figured I would throw in there a Spin After Sin. What the hell have I been listening to this past week? In the background, should you be able to hear it. And I need to thank Alexander from Australia for recommending this to me. I've actually enjoyed it quite a bit. It is Lethal Programmed. I don't know where these guys are from. They sound like they're US. Basically, this is early Queensryche worship, to be completely honest. Maybe not as proggy. Maybe more just traditional metal influenced. But listen. The guy sounds a lot like Jeff Tate. I mean, that's... But it's really well done. It's got the old school vibe, and I dig it. This is a Metal Blade Music for Nations release. I got this for like $6 on Discogs from my friend Goatworth. Actually, I want to give Brian, his name is Brian. Go on Discogs and look up the seller Metal Brain, one word, Metal Brain. He's got like thousands of titles, old and new. I've been getting some really cool shit from him lately for pretty damn cheap, which I'll be showing later on. I just got a package from him the other day. This was one of them. I basically got on, ordered this, and got, of course, a bunch of other shit too. Probably shit I didn't need, but anyway, yeah. Check out Lethal. If you're into old school Queensryche, definitely check them out. Now, I got some CDs and some vinyl to show you guys that I've been spinning a lot. And some of these I may have already shown, but I'm still spinning them. You know, some of these I've talked about in the live streams, and some of the other live shit I've done here last week too. But just want to go through this stuff with you guys. First off, since we were just talked about the other day, is Ulysses Siren. These guys are a Bay Area thrash band from back in the day that was sadly a band that slipped through the cracks. And this album, Above the Ashes, is a fucking monster. An absolute fierce, ripping, aggressive. It's not party thrash. It actually doesn't even really sound like Bay Area thrash. It's just very savage, you know, driving and fast, and just good mix of searing clean with a rasp in the vocals. Well written and speedy. And this is as if you saw the stream, heard, I paid way too much money for this on eBay. I looked up the album on Metal Archives, and it says Flight 19 Publishing, and it actually showed the pressing on Metal Archives, and come to find out this is an Amazon sanctioned CDR that actually does show up on as an official release. And these things suck, man. I mean, it is what it is. I have the album now because the original copies usually go for quite a bit. I'd love to get this on vinyl if anybody's got a lead on it that isn't, you know, one testicle price or one arm and a testicle. I don't know. But, yeah, point me in the direction. I don't want to spend a shit ton of money on it because I'm not really in the position right now to just throw tons of money into humongously expensive pressings. But, check out Ulysses Siren. Do yourself a favor. If you're into thrash, I mean, this screams from that era, but man, is it good. And it's really a shame that these guys did not get more acclaim than they deserve, because it's awesome. Speaking of thrash, I've been in a thrash mood, and I have been replacing or upgrading shit that I've always had on cassette with CDs. I mean, cassettes are cool. Yeah, I go in waves with them. I hated them in the heyday because they always got fucked up. But now it's kind of cool again to have tapes, and I look back at all the tapes. Basically, I would have the tape forever, because when I was younger, it went from 8 tracks to CDs, and there were vinyl was out through that whole time as well. But CD was the big thing, and once the tapes started to get phased out, and you tried to replace everything on CD, I would get the CD and I would give the tape away, which now, in retrospect, was probably dumb, but it's what I did. So yeah, I'm in the process of still upgrading old thrash classics to CD. So obviously you all know what this is. This is Fistful of Metal by Anthrax, their first album. The singer on this is Neil Turbin, who was a one and done singer for Anthrax, and he was great. There's nothing wrong with this guy. Dan Loker and Scott Ian were the two that founded this band. Dan Loker obviously got edged out because Neil Turbin did not like Dan Loker for some reason. And Dan Loker went on to start Nuclear Assault to much critical acclaim. So he can't really be too upset about that, I guess. And Nuclear Assault, fucking one of my favorites for sure. But this album, I wish I could say, oh yeah, I started out in Anthrax. Their first album. No. I think Spreading the Disease was my first soiree into the Anthrax thing, and went backwards. Spreading the Disease, then the Armed and Dangerous EP. Those are my first 2 experiences with Anthrax, and then I got this one and was a little taken aback by the different singer, but the songs are so well written that Death Rider, Metal Thrashing Mad, which I'm 18, which is an Alice Cooper cover, Soldiers of Metal, Death from Above, Howling Furies, great songs. Neil Turbin gave them more of a traditional metal, I think, vibe, but the music, I think, was a little bit more new wave of British heavy metal influenced than straight up thrash. They kind of shifted into the thrash sphere, I think, as they went on both their next album. It's still here. It's like traditional metal mixed with thrash, but very well written. You've got this, or you've heard it. If you have not, it's great. Check it out. And this is all smashed to shit thanks to the post office, but whatever. Practice What You Preach. Had the tape ever since it came out. Was going through my collection and realized I did not have this on CD, so I got this cheap on eBay. There really isn't. I don't even know. This is an Atlantic. Obviously, it was a major label for them, major label release. These guys could easily be in the Big 4, but if there was another Big 4 to make it the Big 8, Testament would be in there along with Exodus and Overkill and whoever else. But anyway, Testament, Practice What You Preach, a little more slick than the 2 previous albums, production-wise, and, the ballad, that was like a hit single for them. Thrash bands starting to incorporate ballads. It's starting to be a slippery slope into the cock rock realm, but it's a good song regardless, and it has just enough edge for it not to be cringeworthy, But Practice What You Preach, Envy Life. I mean, this was recorded and mixed by Alex Perialis, and it is a very crisp sounding album. The bass is very metallic sounding. It cuts through. It very much sounds like a major label release. Great album. This is the first 3 albums of Testament are classic in my eyes. After that, they've started to... I don't even own Souls of Black yet. I think I ordered it drunkenly the other night on tape. I don't know for sure. We'll see what turns up in the mail. I don't have the Ritual. Listening to those really kind of bored the crap out of me. I'm willing to try it again just to try to fill in the holes in my Testament collection. Next up, we're on the same tip. Anthrax, State of Euphoria. This is at the height of the band wearing the kooky shorts with Ninja Turtles on them, and it's a good album. It's Megaforce Island Records. You know, they're still in the major label tip. And I got this tape actually for $1 at the pawn shop, which I was psyched about at the time, but the tape was kind of fucked up. But that's always what I've had. I would always listen to it, and you know, you listen to something enough, you know where every warble and ree is on a tape. I just got used to hearing it that way, but I figured, you know what, this album is good enough that I'm going to pick it up for cheap on CD, which I did. Antisocial, of course, was the hit. It's a cover. I can't remember the band, but Make Me Laugh is good. Be All End All is good. Misery Loves Company. Catchy. Where Thrash Goes Arena Rock. It's here in this album. Next up, I bought this when it came out on cassette. I've had the tape forever, and it was time. It was just time to have the CD. And the Ultraviolence, this is by far my favorite Death Angel album. I liked Frolic Through the Park a lot. I liked Act 3 a lot. Other than the funk stuff, I actually saw them on tour for the Act 3 with Realm and Forbidden in Flint, Michigan at the Capitol Theater. This is a bunch of kids, I mean young ass kids in the Bay Area playing incredibly good thrash. Evil Priest, Thrashers, Kill Is One, Final Death, the Ultraviolence. I mean, this is such a great album. It really is. For a bunch of kids, I mean, just I think they've always kind of been chasing the quality of this album, though they've changed a little bit there. Oh, hold on. Sorry. I don't even know what I was saying. I just sneezed that last brain cell that was holding that thought. But this is a great album. If you've never heard, if you maybe started Death Angel in their more modern era, their modern albums, which are good as well. I've seen them on the tour where there was a moth on the cover. They came through Traverse City with Testament. It's good. And it still sounds like Death Angel, but this is quality, aggressive Bay Area thrash done right by kids. Props. Next up, this is a band. You know what? I have two of them in here. I need to get them together. This is a band that I've always liked. Their first two albums in particular are classics. I think it's easy for people to lump them into the glam rock thing, which really isn't fair because they are way more aggressive and way more highbrow and better than any of that shit. And I realized after the first two albums, I stopped buying their shit, which is kind of a shame. So I blindly bought Wasp, the Headless Children. And man, Blackie Lawless can write some fucking metal. I mean, he is a great voice. He has a great, raspy, unique, warm voice, bluesy, warm, unique style, and interesting way of putting lyrics over pieces of music. And the music he writes is just fucking awesome, well written, well considered, smart, fucking heavy metal. And this is a concept album. I haven't read the lyrics to know what it's about, but it's got a conceptual feel to it. You know, I don't even know what the Real Me was the video from this, which is a Who cover. Headless Children, Thunderhead, Mean Man. I think that was a single for this album, to be honest. And I believe, yep, Chris Holmes was still in the band at this time. There isn't a whole lot to say about Wasp. I mean, if you're into this style of music, you like Wasp. And I think if a lot of people would give Wasp a chance, there is, you know, like Ben was on his video, you know, griping about Manowar, which I get. People either love Manowar or they hate Manowar. Or people, King Diamond. Either you love the falsetto vocals or you hate them. To me, Wasp really doesn't have that cringe factor to them. So I think if you throw on a Wasp album, if you like heavy metal, chances are you're going to like Wasp. So if you're going to jump in, I would say The Last Command, the self-titled are classics. And also check this out, The Headless Children. I still need to get the Eternal Idol. There's other Wasp albums. The Electric Circus. I think that was a shitty album from what I remember people telling me, but I don't know. And also on the same tip is a newer one, not new. This came out in 2000, early 2000. It came out in 99. Eldorado. This is not as good as the Headless Children, but it's still good. It's very much a strong Wasp album. I think Chris Holmes is back in the band at this point. He left the band, then he came back, and then he left again. And this was an album where he was back. It's good. I mean, there's a couple songs on here that are a little cringy, dealing about sex. Oh, there's a song called Dirty Balls. I mean, it seems like the highbrow factor was kind of diminished a bit on this album, but it sounds like Wasp. It's good. Check it out. I'll put this towards the end. I think I mentioned this in a stream earlier, and I've been going through this phase of nostalgia where I've been wanting to listen to a lot of thrash and regular heavy metal, and I had an album by this band Excel called The Joke's on You. I remember sort of liking it back in the day, but not the greatest because of the things I'm going to bring up on this album were worse on The Joke's on You, but people were saying how much better Split Image was, and found it on Discogs for cheap. In fact, Metal Brain. I got this from Metal Brain. My buddy Brian on Discogs. Check him out for $6. I figured it was worth a shot. This is on Rotten Records. And I get why it's on Rotten Records, because these guys they're a California band. They're a skate type of thrash band. And they sound like DRI's kid brother. Musically, this is a great album. It's a good thrash album. Vocally and lyrically, this album is complete garbage, to be completely honest. The singer sounds a lot like Kurt Brett from DRI. The talking kind of snotty talking style that every other line is a rhyme, an embarrassingly obvious rhyme, and his vocal patterns follow the riffs exactly. I mean, to the point where it's mind-numbing. You can feel your brain running out of your ear. It's so fucking boring. I'm selling this. This is going in the bye-bye pile because there's no point in hanging on to it. I don't know if it's worth anything. If somebody wants to trade something for this, like, hey, let's trade the Eternal Idol, Wasp the Eternal Idol, for this. If you're interested, you have it? Let's do that. Hit me up in the comments. Next up, we're going to take it a little bit heavier. You know what? We're not. We're going to do this one first. This was a surprise. My buddy Zoller every year sends me a ginormous box of shit. He lives in an apartment in New York. He buys a ton of music. He keeps the shit that he finds essential, and the rest of it he just kind of gives away to his friends. This last box, there was a lot of this new wave of British heavy metal inspired new wave of traditional heavy metal stuff. And, a lot of it is good. I sent a stack of it to Travis, Lyricise 17, and I kept some of it because I hadn't had time to get through it yet. Well, I threw on Steelwing. I don't even know where these guys are from. I'm going to guess they're Canadian because it seems like there's a lot of this stuff brewing up in Canada. I could be wrong. Don't quote me. I haven't looked. It doesn't matter. I really like the cover art. Very cool sci-fi, old sci-fi novel looking cover art. Threw this in the vehicle the other day, cranked it up, went for a little drive. It was a nice sunny day. And I'll be damned if this didn't kind of kick in my crumple zone, if that makes any sense. It's just straight up modern day sounding heavy metal. This came out in 2012. The guitars the album is perfectly produced. Clean, shouted vocals, but melodic, a lot of singing, a lot of fist pumping style heavy metal. Yep. And there's 9 tracks and 2 bonus tracks, so there's 11 tracks. I wish I could give you more. Now, I've listened to this twice, which is more than I've listened to any of the other of this type of stuff. But yeah, this is Zone of Alienation. And if you're into the new wave of modern... New wave of modern heavy metal? I don't know what the fuck it is. But these guys should be on your list. I was quite surprised at how good it is and how much I liked it. And I'm probably going to hang on to it. It's good to get out and drive around music. Oh, the red light is on his wiener. Oh. Good stuff. I'm not going to dwell talking about it because there really isn't. It isn't that like depth much of a deep album. Just it's more fun and great solos, great songwriting, good shit. I've shown this in the past. I have not filed it yet into the massive collection because I keep listening to it, and that is Eterna's latest. I think they actually have a new album that's out. But this is the one before that. It's called Heathen. This could have and should have been the follow-up to... And So the Night Became. And so Beyond the Wandering Moon is my favorite Eterna's album. The EP is fantastic. And so is... it just left my head again. And So the Night Became. Those are great Norwegian, people call these guys black metal. I think like Beyond the Wandering Moon sounds like Norwegian bolt thrower. But this is great. It's definitely in that style. It is heavy. There's good flow and movement. These guys kind of jumped into more brutal death metal stylings after their second album, which is fine. But man, they're a band that wrote such moving and powerful riffs that it was sad to see them replaced by more of a blunt, complex. They stripped away the feeling and added more brutality, which if you're into that sort of thing, great. They just made them sound like 2 different bands. I think it started on Shadows of Old. Is that the name of that album? Yellow cover, Flames. I don't know. Shadows of Old, I think, is what that was called. But this is a great album. If you have not checked it out and you're like, yeah, who cares? I mean, really, listen to this. I mean, the songs are very mature. They've got that atmospheric infusion in their riffs again, which is fantastic. Definitely check these guys out. Next up, I used to have both of this band's albums that were sent to me as promos back in the day, and it was during a time where there were a million bands erupting out of Sweden that sounded like this, and I was very underwhelmed at the time. So I got rid of them. I gave them away, and I kind of realized that was dumb. So I'm looking for them again, and I found this on Discogs from Metal Brain for $6, and it is Sacrilege, the 5th season. Look at that Necrolord artwork. It's not blue. Imagine that. Sorry, you're getting glares and shit. Here. This is highly melodic Gothenburg styled black/death metal. What makes it blackish? Probably the higher register screaming style. Musically, it's fast in the style of early In Flames, the dueling guitar harmonies. Very much a product of its time, very much a product of its geographical location. But the 5th season holds up. The songs are strong. I really wish I did not give these away back in the day, because I would just get so burnt out, man. We get so much shit, and it was, very much a sign of the era. Like when we started, it was all brutal death metal. It sounded like Cannibal Corpse and Suffocation. Then it moved. Then Slaughter of the Soul got big. So there was a million bands in Gothenburg that all started trying to sound like that, or In Flames, or Jester Race. As much as I love that album, it spawned a legion of clones. And again, that's not the guys that started its fault. It's a product of the scene. I get that. It's a product of the times. I get that. But, coming back around, this shit's fantastic. It's good. Check out Sacrilege. This is not the Sacrilege from the UK, nor is it the Sacrilege BC from California that played thrash. This is the Gothenburg Sacrilege. Next up, I planned on doing a big review of this, but decided that it had been long enough. Enough people had put in their 2 cents on it, and I changed my mind, and I'm glad I did, because my initial thought of Revelations of Oblivion by Possessed was not a favorable one. First impression of this was the first 3 songs were really good and sounded like Possessed. But the album was too long, and as it went on, it sounded a lot less like Possessed and just kind of sounded tired. That was my first impression. I remained persistent. I kept listening to this album, and I'm glad I did, because the songs themselves really sold me. I think this is a really good album. I think whoever they've got, the drummer is... I can't read it because my eyes are shit. The drummer. What ushers this back in time, this material back in time, to sound like it could have been during the heyday of Bay Area thrash, even though it's got a modern Peter Tägtgren production, are the Rototoms. He brought out the Rototoms, and he uses them a lot, and man, that really gives it that 80s thrash vibe, and it gives so much energy to these songs. It propels these fucking songs. There's a couple dudes in here that I think that were in, at least one of them was in Sadistic Intent. I don't know. I know at one point Sadistic Intent was Jeff's backup band for live, but God, the riffs are so good on this. Jeff Becerra sounds like Jeff Becerra. It sounds like him. A couple songs, he's a little lower, maybe not so much like himself, but the thing, and Devin touched on this on his latest Maze of Torment, touched on this in his last thing on how the lyrics sound like a kid wrote them. He is completely right. The bubblegum satanic lyrics on this are fucking stupid. I mean, they're really bad. They're rhymey. It's just super juvenile lyrical concepts. I mean, this is, 2019 when this came out, 2018, I don't know, 2019. And we're still singing about, shit that Venom sang about. And, I mean, these guys sang about that shit back then, too. But they were young, and I get it. But, Jeff Becerra's a grown-ass man. And he's still singing about these bubblegum fucking satanic topics. I mean, I get it. It's Possessed. It should be evil, but it seems like there could have been a little more thought into some of these lyrics. It made them a little smarter than they ended up being. That is my main complaint about this album, is the lyrics are fucking dumb. Straight up dumb. But the rest of it, it's a Possessed record. It could have came out after the Eyes of Horror EP, and it'd have been just fine. People would have shit their pants over it then. Now, I think there's been a lot of years between the heyday of thrash and today. I think people are a lot desensitized and maybe more acclimated to black metal pitfalls. But this is good, man. If you're into thrash, if you're an old guy like me, check it out. And if you're a young guy that's just getting into thrash, this won't steer you wrong. This is a really good album. Definitely check it out. Next up is, the reason I bought this is because I am friends with the Demolition Man on Facebook. So I see his posts all the time. I actually talked with him in Messenger for a minute, and Tony Dolan is a super nice dude. I just get the impression that he loves what he does. He loves being in this band. He loves the music they make. He loves the fans. He just has a really fucking sweet outlook on life as an older guy. And I'm talking about Venom Incorporated, Venom Ink's Ave. So I had to buy it just because I like Tony's or Demolition Man's attitude, and I always did like Primeval. When that album came out by Venom, yeah, it was a bummer that Kronos wasn't there, but Demolition Man, he did a great job. I stopped following Venom at that point. I know Delano's or Demolition Man stayed with the band for numerous albums before things went to shit, but they're back. They were also working with Demolition Man, Abaddon, and Mantis in Empire of Evil, which I have not heard any of that stuff. But they dropped that, and they went with Venom Ink. And the guitar playing sounds like Jeff Mantis. It just does. Are the songs as good as the classic Venom tracks? Of course not. No, not even close. And in fact, there are some songs on here that are a bit boring. Although saying that, the spirit is good. It's a good, strong spirit to it. It's just the album gets a little long. I've listened to this twice. I need to spend more time with it and really absorb it, because I think it will stand up over time if I put the work into it. But yeah, this is good. If you're on the fence about it, watch some live clips of these guys. Demolition Man does a fucking great job on the classics. He just does. And the new shit, it's not as good as the early material, of course, by any means, but it is really good. It's worth listening to. Next up, I got this cheap online. I've got some holes in my Grave collection, which I'm trying to fill. Out of respect for the dead, I think this is their latest. I could be wrong. This came out in... They're not going to tell me. It's been a couple years now. There might be another album out after this. I'm not entirely sure. And Grave, the first 3 Grave albums are classics. I love that shit. They lost me on Hating Life. I think that album is crap. Extremely Rotten Live. I have the promo of it. I don't know that I've listened to it since that came out. And then there was a period of inactivity, and then they got back together with a new lineup. Back from the Grave, I think, was the album that came out. And it's all been good. It's all been good, solid death metal of the Swedish variety. But something is different. I'm not going to lie. Something's different in the songwriting. The early shit was just magical, really super catchy, They did a great job at reuniting, combining melodic, memorable riffs with super smart, catchy production or structures. There's some of that on here. The vocals are just a bit monotonous. The songs are a bit interchangeable. I mean, I like it. I listen to it, and I don't dislike it. But there's nothing that really... The character is kind of gone. There's nothing that really jumps out. And I can say that with a lot of the shit that they've done since they've been back together. And some people may have come into Grave during this era and prefer it. Great. I mean, it's all where you jump into the stream at. Check it out. Preview it before you buy it. I mean, I like it enough to have bought it. I knew going into that CD what it was going to be because I've got some of the others leading up to it. And a lot of it depends on my mood. And this one is another album I used to own. Got rid of it for some dumb reason. For some reason, I thought it was cheesy. Well, I ended up rebuying it. It's Bal Sagoth's Starfire Burning Upon the Ice-Veiled Throne of Ultima Thule. And, I think Ben is partially to blame for me getting back into this. I always had A Black Moon Broods Over Lemuria. That's a great album. They got a lot more theatrical as they went on. I mean, these albums play out like a movie, like a fantasy movie. Ben got me, he sent me some VCLT of Battle Magic, and it really snapped me back into like, shit, this fucking rules. Oh, I remember having Starfire Burning, and I found it cheap online, bought it, and I've listened to this shit out of this album. And definitely check it out. It's on Cacophonous Records. You should be able to find it at a reasonable price. I did. I think I got it for, $12 or whatever on eBay. One thing, when you get this CD and you go in and you hit play, the disc will play, but nothing will happen. At the time, I thought my receiver blew because nothing was working until I put a tape in and realized it was playing. They put a track 1 on this CD as an interactive CD-ROM track. God, I fucking hate that shit. And they put it at the beginning of the CD. So if you didn't know that and you didn't read that, you would think that your shit's fucked up, which I did for a minute. Lost my shit. Started ripping and tearing stuff apart. But skip to track 2 is where the album starts, and it's a good one. A lot of narration. There's a lot of talking on this, a lot of pitch shift deep, you know, real theatrical Lord of the Rings type shit. But really good, highly developed English, thrashy, black metal. I mean, I say black metal, it's not satanic. I say black metal in overall spirit. This is like a way better Cradle of Filth to me. Like a less black metal Cradle of Filth, if that makes any sense. Last of the CDs, I am finally getting into the last out of season order I did. And I picked up some shit I had missed. And this is a split between Neverlure and Sequestered Keep. And it is under Lord Joset. I don't know. I can't say this. Quest in the North is Sequestered Keep. And there are 3 songs from Neverlure and 5 songs by Sequestered Keep. I find this shit incredibly relaxing. And when I'm working in the shop printing shirts, it is sometimes nice to reset the brain and not have to think. I don't know, this stuff just kind of chills me out. It kind of resets my head. And it's just super soothing synth music. Call it dungeon synth. There's elements of dungeon on here. There's elements of winter synth on here. Regardless, this is a co-release by Out of Season and Tour de Garde. And I enjoy it. Everything I've heard by Sequestered Keep I enjoy, and I just found out that Sequestered Keep is also the same dude behind Throat Ruin and Fief, which are great. I mean, the guy has his pulse on the synth music for sure, and his finger on the pulse of it. He knows what he's doing, and this is a good, both bands. If you didn't know it was a split, you would think it was the same band. I'm not saying all this shit sounds the same, but am I saying that? No, each band has their own kind of feel and spirit, but this is a similar, both bands just chose to tap into a similar vibe on this album, and it's good. Definitely a nice change of pace. Man, I'm sorry, I'm talking my fucking ass off. 40 minutes, I'm so sorry. We have a stack of vinyl to go through. I'll try to go quickish. I may have showed these, but this band rules. This is Blessed Death. They're from the US. I cannot remember which town they're from. Got these for a good price on the eBay. This is the first album. This is the second album. This album is a humongous progression. The vocals are absolutely nuts. Completely nuts. High-pitched screaming that is over the top. And check these guys out. Completely awesome. Get out of here. I would highly, if you're into old thrash, this is great. And there are elements of the high crazy screaming on this too, but this is just a better album. Production's a little wonky, but it's completely savage killer thrash. And these vocals really hurl it over the top. This album, my God, Painkiller, Pray for Death, Alien Impregnation. Fucking killer. These guys are ready to whoop some ass. I mean, look at them. They're looking for a fight. I mean, they're looking off. Like, is there a fight over there? We're ready. This guy just scampered out of a dumpster, ready to fight and drink and fuck. But these are great records. I'm totally glad I scored these. I've had these on tape forever. It was good to upgrade to record. Whoa, that's gonna fall. Next up, I have been listening to these again. I need to file them. These are Vargraf albums. This is the first, Netherstorm. It came with a, I think this, I got the black. It came with a 7-inch, The Glory of Eternal Night, which has that song and a pretty damn accurate cover of Emperor's Ancient Queen. This is, I want to say these guys are Polish, but I don't know. To be completely honest with you, I have no idea. But it is completely authentic Norwegian sounding black metal. Emperor in particular, that's why the Ancient Queen song really goes over so well. The keyboards are very much a predominant part of this band. That's the first album. And this is the latest album. This is Reign in Supreme Darkness. I think I like the first album a bit better. Maybe the production is a little more underground sounding, but this is a good album too. There's no what is that, glossy or what? So yeah, super symphonic underground black metal with the old Emperor vibe. If you have not heard these guys, check it out. I think I got both these through Hell's Headbangers when they came out. I would imagine it's quite popular. They're still in print, but I have no idea. I think it came out originally on Werewolf Records. Next up is a classic, Hammer of Gods by Angel Corpse. This is my favorite Angel Corpse album, and the only one I own on vinyl. It's got the nice gold foil embossed stuff going on up there. Osmos reissue. This is a picture disc, which normally I'd be like, oh, picture discs suck, but this actually sounds pretty damn good. I think over the years they've gotten the picture disc thing figured out. But I've seen the band numerous times over the years, 3 times during this era. God, they were such a good band. You know, it's like the cross between Order from Chaos and which of course Pete came from Order from Chaos, and Morbid Angel. That is what this band sounds like to me. The riffs, Pete, his vocals are scathing. Gene's guitar riffing is just absolutely spot on, technical, exact, like Trey and all like these old era of good thrashing death metal. He just gloms onto that and makes it his own. These guys are great. This is a fantastic album. This is their most underground sounding record, I think, I think as they went, they got a little more Morbid Angel-esque. I know other people think Exterminate is their favorite. You know, that's great, because I'm not going to sit here and bitch, because all the Angel Corpse shit is awesome. But this is my favorite. It's definitely the most, the songs, I think, have a little more freedom. They're not as over-the-top technical. I think there's just a lot more room for the riffs to breathe on this album, and it just gives it a very aggressive old school vibe. This album, you know, I'm on the fence about this. Pan American Native Front. This is Tecumseh's War. This is pretty good. It's blackened war metal, I want to say, centering around a Native American historical concept. I don't want to say concept, but theme. Curator of War was on one of our live streams with us one night. Super nice dude. I bought the album actually while talking to him. And yeah, I mean, this is good if you're into war metal with a bit of a black metal tinge. I have not listened to this enough to fully absorb it. But side 2 is where I think the songs opened up a bit more, and I like them a bit more. I need to sit with the album a bit more, to be honest. I'm not going to file this one yet. I need to listen to it a few more times. But it's good, aggressive, angry, and, you know, the way the people of this country were treated, the original people, I mean, it's well documented, and it's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. And for people with Native heritage, they should be fucking pissed. To be completely honest, they should be pissed off. Yeah, I think that's what Curator of War was trying to channel with this album, and I would say mission accomplished. I mean, it's a little underproduced, but it does have real drums on it, which is a good thing. I think, if I remember right, they're real drums. Again, I need to spend some time with this, but definitely good, aggressive, hateful sounding black and war metal. And we're going to end on 3 old ass classics. I've shown this before, but I've been spinning this. Queensryche, The Warning. I'm a big fan of Queensryche, the first 3 albums. And this is great traditional, well-written, progressive heavy metal. Jeff Tate. No one sounds like him. This guy sounds like him. But, he was pretty much the originator of his own style, I should say, because it's very, very good. Well-considered, well-placed vocal harmonies. The lyrics are placed in smart positions over the riffs. Very well-written album. I shouldn't have to tell you too much about Queensryche. Raven, Life's a Bitch. Raven's got some shit in their catalog, but their early shit is great, and this is where they started to get good again. They did the whole Pack is Back and Stay Hard for a major label. This is on a major label as well, but I think the major label really tried to mold them into something more sellable, which means their music got a lot less aggressive and a little bit more commercial, pop structured. This is more on track. Savage and the Hungry, Life's a Bitch, You're a Liar, Juggernaut. Good English, new wave of British heavy metal. Would they be clumped into that crowd? They might be. They've been around that long. This is a good album. I mean, they're the ultimate power trio, and the brothers really bring the ferocity, and they bring the talent. The bass lines are insane. The guitar solos are great. The songs are catchy. And no one sounds like Raven. Let's be honest. You hear a Raven song, you're like, oh, that's fucking Raven. And lastly, if you were to told me 35 years ago, my parents used to have a satellite dish back in the day, and it allowed us to get the Canadian version of MTV, which was called Much Music. And it started off once a week. I thought it was on Thursdays at 5. It was the Power Hour. They showed tons of metal shit that MTV's Headbangers Balls couldn't figure out how to show. They'd show Sacrifice, they'd show Razor videos, they'd show Voivod videos, they'd show all this killer shit. Well, it was the first time I ever saw Balls to the Wall by Accept. And I didn't really... The more aggressive stuff I got into, I just, my aggressive brain just couldn't tolerate something that seemed so commercial and kind of cheesy. And so yeah, I mean, over the years I have Restless and Wild, which is a good album. And I picked this up at the last record show that came through Travers last year. I got this for $9. I finally listened to it last week, and I gotta say, I enjoyed every single minute of this record. The songs are well written. They're simplistic. It's simplistic German heavy metal, but it's so well written. And Udo Dirkschneider sings his ass off on this album. I mean, yeah, it's a guy holding a set of nuts. And, even like London Leather Boys, Head Over Heels, Losing More Than You've Ever Had, Losers and Winners. This is a great fucking record. This is a great European heavy metal record. And you're damn right. Next time I stumble across an Accept album cheap in a cutout bin or on a record show, I'm getting it. Because, I liked Restless and Wild, but I really liked this album. I thought this was a great album. I can't wait to listen to it again, actually. So, man, I've prattled on for a good 50 minutes. God. It's been a pleasure hanging out with all of you folks, and thanks for watching. And it's been awesome interacting with you in the comments. And also, should you be so inclined, head on over to the Byron Recordings YouTube page and hit like, subscribe to that. We got some videos up, some songs up for upcoming releases. I won't bug you too much for that one, just for the fact that I only post on there when there's something to announce. But I appreciate all of you folks, and thanks for watching, and we will talk again soon. Next time it will probably be Manila Road. See y'all later.